The first time I thought I was going to die on the road was somewhere outside Amarillo at around 3 a.m. when I looked in my side mirror and saw a little girl sitting in the back of my trailer, smiling at me through the darkness. I've been driving long haul for almost 15 years now, and if you talk to truckers long enough, you start hearing stories nobody outside the industry believes. Stories about roads that feel wrong after midnight, empty rest stops where people disappear, voices on dead CB channels, things standing beside highways where no human should be. Most of us joke about it because that's easier than admitting how isolating this job really is. You spend weeks alone, exhausted, driving through endless darkness, with your brain slowly starting to blur reality after enough sleepless nights. At least, that's what I used to tell myself before that run through Texas. I was hauling refrigerated meat from Denver down toward Dallas during a brutal thunderstorm, the kind where rain hits the windshield so hard it feels like rocks. Around 2 a.m, traffic completely disappeared, and for nearly an hour, I didn't pass a single vehicle. Then, my CB radio crackled with static before a voice whispered, "You've got someone in the trailer." I remember laughing nervously because truckers mess with each other constantly, but something about the voice bothered me. It sounded terrified. A few minutes later, the same voice came back louder this time. "Driver, pull over right now." Then nothing. I checked my mirrors constantly after that and eventually noticed the rear trailer door looked slightly open. Just barely. That instantly made my stomach tighten because I knew I locked it myself before leaving Denver. I finally pulled into an abandoned gas station somewhere off Route 287 to check the trailer. Rain hammered the pavement while lightning lit up empty fields around me, and the entire place looked deserted except for one flickering soda machine near the building. The second I stepped out of the truck, I heard movement inside the trailer. Not shifting cargo, footsteps, slow footsteps. Then came 3 knocks from the inside walls. I backed away immediately and yelled, "Who's in there?" No response. Another 3 knocks. Every instinct in my body screamed not to open those doors. I started backing toward the cab when lightning flashed overhead, and for half a second, I saw a little girl standing behind the trailer, wearing what looked like a white nightgown. Then, darkness swallowed her again. I climbed back into the truck and locked the doors instantly, and right as I started the engine, the CB radio exploded with static before that same voice whispered, "Don't let her in." Something slammed against the side of the trailer, hard enough to shake the entire truck. Then another impact. Then another. I drove out of there nearly losing control while bangs echoed from inside the trailer the entire time. When I finally reached Dallas at sunrise, the rear doors were still locked exactly how I left them, but the inside of the trailer was destroyed. Boxes ripped open, deep scratches carved across the metal walls, and near the far corner, written in condensation, were the words, "You left me there." I quit long haul 6 months later after waking up at a rest stop in Oklahoma and seeing muddy child-sized footprints leading up the side of my truck door. The most dangerous load I ever hauled wasn't illegal, at least not officially, but whatever was inside that container got 3 men killed before sunrise and nearly took me with it. Back in 2019, I was desperate for money after my wife got diagnosed with cancer. So when a guy offered me double my normal pay to haul a sealed container from Nevada to Louisiana, no questions asked, I accepted immediately. The pickup location should have been my first warning sign, because it wasn't a shipping yard or warehouse. It was an abandoned industrial site in the middle of the desert, surrounded by rusted fences and floodlights. Two men loaded the container onto my rig without speaking much, except to repeatedly tell me, under no circumstances was I supposed to open it. The container itself looked wrong. No company markings, no serial numbers, just dull gray metal covered in scratches like something had been dragged violently across the inside walls over and over again. About 3 hours into the drive, I started hearing noises from inside the trailer. At first, it sounded like cargo shifting around, but eventually, it became rhythmic, almost like knocking. 3 slow bangs. Pause. 3 more. I called the number the men gave me and told them something was moving inside the container. The guy on the phone went completely silent before asking where I was. When I told him, he quietly said, "Do not stop driving." Around midnight, I pulled into a truck stop outside Albuquerque because I was exhausted and honestly starting to panic. The second I parked, another trucker approached me asking if I needed help, because he claimed he heard screaming coming from my trailer while I pulled in. I told him there was nobody inside. He stared at me for a second before quietly saying, "Buddy, yes, there is." That night I woke up inside the sleeper cab because somebody was pounding on the inside walls of the container hard enough to shake the truck. Then came screaming. Human screaming. A man's voice begging for help. Several truckers gathered nearby, looking terrified while the sounds continued from inside the container. One older driver kept repeating, "Open it! Jesus Christ, open it!" I wish we hadn't. The second those doors cracked open, something exploded out of the darkness inside, moving so fast, none of us fully saw it. I only remember screaming, blood spraying across the side of the truck, and one of the men beside me disappearing into the darkness between trailers. Everybody ran. I locked myself back inside the cab while horrible sounds echoed through the truck stop outside. Metal slamming, people screaming, footsteps sprinting between trucks. Then silence. By sunrise, police found 2 bodies torn apart behind the fuel station and another trucker completely missing. My trailer was empty when they searched it. Completely empty. The shipping company attached to the load never existed, and the phone number I'd been given was disconnected by morning. I still drive regional routes sometimes, but I never haul sealed containers anymore. And every once in a while, late at night, I still hear 3 slow knocks coming from the empty back of my trailer while driving alone. Every trucker has at least one story they refuse to tell at truck stops after midnight, and mine happened during a snowstorm in Wyoming when I picked up a woman who should have been dead. This was back in 2017, during one of the worst winters I've ever driven through. Roads were almost completely empty because of the storm, and visibility was terrible. But dispatch kept pushing deliveries because freight never stops, no matter how dangerous conditions get. Around 1 a.m, I spotted someone standing on the shoulder of Interstate 80. Through the snow, a woman wearing a thin gray coat, with no gloves, no hat, nothing. At first I thought she was stranded after a crash, so I pulled over and let her inside the cab. The second she climbed in, I noticed something felt wrong. Her clothes were freezing cold and soaked through, but there was no snow on her shoulders or hair, like she'd been standing outside for hours, untouched by the storm. She barely spoke at first, except to quietly ask if I could take her east toward Laramie. I tried making conversation while driving, but every answer she gave felt strange, delayed somehow, like she had to think carefully before pretending to sound human. Then I noticed blood on the sleeve of her coat. When I asked if she was hurt, she slowly looked down at the stain, like she had noticed it before, and whispered, "That's not mine." I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt after she said that. A few minutes later, my CB radio crackled with static before another trucker came through warning everyone about a major accident farther west involving a woman who wandered into traffic during the storm and got hit by multiple vehicles. Then he described what she was wearing: gray coat, dark jeans, brown hair. My stomach dropped instantly. I looked toward the passenger seat, and the woman was staring directly at me, smiling faintly. Then she quietly said, "Don't stop the truck." Before I could respond, headlights suddenly appeared behind us, moving way too fast through the snow. A pickup truck swerved violently around my trailer and nearly forced me off the road before speeding ahead into the storm. I only caught a glimpse of the driver, but I remember seeing blood covering the inside of the windshield. The woman beside me started laughing softly after it disappeared. Not normal laughter, something empty and wrong. Then she whispered, "He still thinks he can catch me." I was seconds from pulling over when the cab temperature suddenly dropped so hard I could see my breath. Every light on the dashboard flickered once, and when I looked back toward the passenger seat, she was gone. Completely gone. The door never opened. There were no footprints in the snow outside. Nothing. About 20 miles later, traffic stopped because of a police blockade surrounding a horrific accident scene. A pickup truck had crashed headfirst into the divider at high speed. The driver was dead on impact. While officers questioned me, one of them mentioned the man had been wanted for abducting and killing women across multiple states for years. Then he asked if I'd seen anyone else on the road that night. I told him no. I still don't know why I lied. Maybe because part of me believes whatever sat in that passenger seat wasn't trying to hurt me. Maybe it was hunting him,